It's funny how certain feelings just seem to resonate across generations.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea of feeling behind in life.
Mm-hmm.
It comes up so often, especially when people hit their 30s.
Absolutely.
It's like there's this invisible checklist, right?
Yeah, totally.
House, stable career, maybe starting a family.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't quite ticked all those boxes,
Right.
you start to wonder if you're somehow falling short.
I think that's something a lot of people can relate to,
Totally.
especially these days with social media constantly showing us.
Oh, don't even get me started on social media.
It's hard to escape those curated versions of everyone else's lives.
It's all highlight reels.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so easy to forget that those are just snapshots,
Absolutely.
not the whole picture.
It's like comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's finished movie.
It's such a good analogy.
We all have our own unique path,
Right.
with its own twists and turns.
Ups and downs.
Or sure.
And what we're finding fascinating is how often we measure ourselves against these external markers of success.
I see what you mean.
Like, without even stopping to ask.
What?
If those markers actually matter to us personally.
That's so true.
Like, do they align with our own values?
Hmm.
With what we truly want out of life?
It's a great question.
Because sometimes, even when you're doing a lot of things right by those external standards,
Yeah.
you can still feel stuck or unfulfilled.
Absolutely.
And we've been looking at this one person's experience. They're 30 years old. They have a good income.
Mm-hmm.
They've built an emergency fund.
Wow, impressive.
They even helped their mom financially when she needed it.
That's incredible.
But they're still living at home.
Okay.
They're dealing with debt.
Uh-huh.
And they just really crave that feeling of independence.
That makes sense.
It's like a reminder that even when you're doing a lot of things right,
Yeah.
those internal pressures,
Yeah.
those feelings of inadequacy,
Mm-hmm.
they could be really tough to shake.
Excellent.
And it's almost like instead of celebrating those wins,
Right.
those accomplishments,
Like helping their mom,
exactly,
building that emergency fund,
they get fixated on what they haven't achieved yet.
which can be so discouraging.
For sure.
It's like running a race and constantly looking over your shoulder.
Instead of focusing on your own lane.
Yeah, and your own progress.
So let's dive into this whole feeling of being behind.
Okay, sounds good.
One of the biggest things that keeps coming up is this idea of financial milestones,
Uh-huh.
hitting certain income levels, buying a house, having X amount saved for retirement by a certain age.
Those are some big ones.
And what's interesting is how arbitrary some of those expectations can be.
I think so too.
They don't always take into account individual circumstances,
You're right, they don't.
economic realities,
Mm-hmm.
or even just, personal goals.
Yeah, like what if someone doesn't even want to own a home?
Exactly.
Is that still considered a marker of success?
It makes you wonder, right?
That.
And in this particular case, the individual we're looking at,
Yeah.
they faced some real financial setbacks. Job layoffs,
Uh-huh.
a business venture that didn't quite work out,
Oh, that's tough.
student loan debt. It's a lot to manage.
It really is.
But what's impressive,
Uh,
that even with those challenges,
Mhm.
they're still showing a lot of financial responsibility.
How so?
They've got that emergency fund.
Right.
They're contributing to a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
They stepped up to support their family
That says a lot about their character.
and their financial awareness.
Absolutely.
It's not like they're just sitting around complaining.
Right.
They're actively trying to improve their situation.
It sounds like they're really trying.
And I think that's why so many people resonated with their story
Yeah, it makes sense.
and were so quick to offer support and advice.
It's great to see that kind of community support.
One of the things that really stood out to me
Yeah.
was this encouragement to focus on progress, not perfection.
I love that idea.
It's such an important mindset shift.
It really is.
It's about acknowledging and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Instead of feeling like you have to achieve everything at once.
It reminds me of the snowball method for debt reduction.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
It's not just about the math,
Right.
It's about the psychological boost you get from actually seeing progress.
So it's like a motivational tool as much as a financial strategy.
Exactly. I like that. Can you break down how the snowball method works for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. So basically, you focus on paying off your smallest debts first,
Okay.
while still making minimum payments on the larger ones.
Got it.
As you knock out those smaller debts,
Yeah.
you free up more cash flow,
Makes sense.
which you then use to tackle the bigger debts.
So it kind of creates this momentum.
Exactly. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, gathering speed.
And it helps you become debt-free faster.
But also, importantly, it keeps you motivated because you're constantly seeing results.
You're getting those little wins.
There's many victories along the way.
Exactly.
And that sense of accomplishment can be so empowering.
Especially when you're feeling stuck or discouraged.
Absolutely.
It helps shift your mindset from, I can't do this.
To, I'm making progress, I'm getting closer to my goal.
Okay, so we've talked about celebrating progress, rethinking those societal timelines for success,
Right.
focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
But there's another big piece of this puzzle,
What's that?
the living situation.
Oh.
This person is 30 years old, still living at home. They're contributing financially,
Okay.
but they feel like it's holding them back,
In what way?
socially, emotionally.
That's understandable.
And this is where things get really interesting,
Tell me more.
because there are so many layers to unpack.
Yeah, for sure.
On one hand, you have that very understandable desire for independence.
Right.
Moving out is often seen as this rite of passage into adulthood.
Totally.
But then on the other hand, there are the financial realities to consider.
Especially in today's economy.
It's tough out there.
Rent is sky high in a lot of places.
It can be incredibly difficult to get ahead financially.
Especially when you're also trying to pay down debt.
Exactly.
So staying at home,
Yeah,
at least strategically for a while,
makes a lot of sense in some cases.
it allows you to save more aggressively,
Right.
pay down debt faster, build a stronger financial foundation.
It's not about staying in your comfort zone forever.
Right. It's about being smart.
Using your current situation to your advantage.
But we also have to acknowledge that living at home as an adult isn't always easy.
Oh, for sure.
There can be social and emotional downsides.
Absolutely.
It can impact your sense of privacy, your relationships,
Yeah.
even your overall well-being.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution,
And that's why open and honest communication is so important.
especially in this situation.
If this person is considering staying at home longer, having a heart-to-heart with their mom is crucial.
Especially since they've already been helping their mom financially.
Exactly.
Maybe they could negotiate a slightly lower contribution to household expenses
For a set period of time
to make it feel like a mutually beneficial arrangement.
where everyone's needs are being considered.
That's a great point.
It's all about finding that balance,
Right.
weighing the financial benefits against the emotional and social aspects.
Yeah.
But let's step back for a moment and
Right.
remember that overarching feeling of being behind
It's so easy to lose sight of the bigger picture.
when you're caught up in the day-to-day grind.
Absolutely. And this person even mentioned wanting to move to the South eventually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they talked about building a life that feels more aligned with their values. But it's like, how do you go from feeling stuck
Right.
to actually taking steps towards that vision?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I think it all starts with setting realistic goals.
Okay, so break that down for me.
It's great to have big dreams.
Of course.
But if your goals are too ambitious or overwhelming,
Yeah,
it's easy to get discouraged and just give up.
I can see that.
It's about breaking those big aspirations down.
And they do.
Smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of saying, I want to move to the South,
Yeah.
it might be.
Okay, what are some specific cities in the South that fit my budget and lifestyle?
Exactly.
Right.
And instead of, I need to pay off all my debt,
Right.
it becomes,
Right, let's create a detailed budget and see where I can cut back to free up more money for debt repayment.
I love that.
It's about making those dreams feel tangible, achievable.
Less overwhelming.
Exactly.
But life rarely goes exactly according to plan, right?
Oh, you got that right.
So how do we account for that?
Flexibility is key.
Okay, I like that.
We need to be adaptable,
Hmm.
willing to adjust our goals as needed.
So it's not about giving up on the dream.
No, not at all.
It's about course correction,
Exact.
not fix.
It's all part of the journey.
Speaking of adjusting, let's circle back to that living situation.
Here.
We talked about the financial benefits of staying at home. But how do you weigh that against the emotional piece?
Right.
This person feels like it's hindering their social life
Yeah.
and their personal growth.
That's a valid concern.
So how do you decide when it's time to make that leap,
That's a tough one.
even if it means taking a bit of a financial hit?
There's no easy answer.
I figured.
It's a very personal decision.
But what are some things to consider?
I think it comes down to, honestly, assessing your own needs and priorities. If
Oh.
staying at home is truly impacting your mental health
Yeah.
or preventing you from pursuing opportunities that are important to you, then it might be worth considering a move.
Even if it means adjusting those financial goals.
Exactly.
So it's about weighing the costs and benefits.
Yes.
Not just in terms of dollars and cents,
Right.
but also in terms of your overall well-being. And being honest with yourself about what you're willing to sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Maybe you're willing to live in a smaller apartment or cut back on some expenses to gain that independence.
Right.
Or maybe you decide that staying put for another year or two
Yeah.
will set you up for greater financial security and freedom down the road.
Exactly.
There's no right or wrong answer.
As long as it aligns with your values.
And your vision for the future.
I think that's so important to remember.
It really is.
There's so much pressure to follow a specific script.
Well, tell me about it.
To hit these milestones by a certain age.
Like it's some kind of race?
It's easy to forget that it's really about creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling for you.
I love that.
It might mean challenging those societal expectations.
Yeah.
Defining success on your own terms.
So what might that look like?
Maybe it's not about owning a home by 30,
Okay.
but about having the freedom to travel or pursue a passion project.
Or maybe it's about building strong relationships.
Absolutely.
Or making a difference in your community.
Exactly.
Expanding our definition of success beyond those traditional markers.
Finding what truly matters to you.
And prioritizing those things.
Even if they don't fit the conventional mold.
I think that's what makes these conversations so important.
I agree.
It's about giving ourselves permission to write our own stories.
To define our own paths.
And to celebrate our progress.
No matter where we are on that journey.
It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, right?
We are, every single one of us.
And that comparison game we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It can really steal our joy if we let it.
It can be so insidious.
Because when we compare ourselves to others,
yeah,
we're often comparing our insides to their outsides.
That's such a good way to put it.
We see their highlight reel.
That carefully curated version of their life.
But we don't see the struggles.
Setbacks, the doubts.
Exactly.
They might be experiencing all those things beneath the surface.
Like comparing our blooper reel to their finished film.
I love that analogy.
And when we do that,
yeah,
we lose sight of our own unique journey.
Our own strengths.
Our own progress.
We start to devalue our experiences and accomplishments.
So how do we break free from that trap?
That's the question.
How do we shift our focus to something more positive and empowering?
It takes a conscious effort.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Cultivating gratitude.
Okay.
Self-compassion.
Tell me more.
It's about focusing on what we're grateful for in our own lives. Acknowledging our efforts.
Yeah.
Treating ourselves with kindness and understanding.
Like we would offer a friend.
Exactly.
It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. Right?
Nailed it.
Recognizing that we all have something unique and valuable to offer.
Regardless of where we are on that traditional timeline of success.
That's a powerful message.
It really is.
So as we continue this conversation,
yeah,
I'd love to explore some practical strategies for cultivating that mindset.
Okay.
And creating a life that feels truly aligned with our values.
Let's do it.
I think there's some really tangible steps we can all take to move in that direction.
I agree.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
This whole idea of redefining success, challenging those societal timelines,
Right.
and most importantly, being kinder to ourselves.
I think that's key.
But now I want to get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, let's do it.
What are some practical things people can actually do to start building that life they dream of?
Right, like actionable steps.
Even if they're feeling stuck or behind right now?
I think a good place to start is with cultivating a growth mindset.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So instead of seeing challenges as threats or failures, you think of them as opportunities to learn and grow.
To get better.
Exactly.
So it's about reframing those setbacks as stepping stones.
I like that.
Because failure isn't really the opposite of success, is it?
Not necessarily.
It's part of the process.
It's all about learning from those experiences.
Adjusting your approach.
Or trying again.
And that applies to all areas of life, right?
I think so.
Finances, relationships, personal growth.
It's all connected.
It's about being willing to experiment.
Yeah.
To step outside that comfort zone.
Embrace the messiness.
And you know what else came up a lot?
What's that?
This idea of finding ways to connect with others.
Oh, absolutely.
Building a support system.
Creating a sense of belonging.
Which can be tough.
Yeah.
When you're feeling isolated or stuck.
It can be hard to reach out.
But there are so many ways to connect.
Even if you're on a tight budget.
Like what? Give us some ideas.
Well, you could join a local book club or hiking group,
Okay, those are good.
volunteer for a cause you're passionate about,
Yeah.
take a community class,
Hmm.
or even just start striking up conversations with people you encounter in your daily life.
I love that.
Sometimes the simplest
Make
things.
the biggest difference.
Exactly.
And it's about being proactive.
Putting yourself out there.
Even if it feels a little awkward at first,
You never know what kind of connections you might make
and those connections can have such a profound impact.
on our well-being.
They provide support, inspiration.
A sense of purpose that goes beyond our individual goals.
Sometimes it's those small interactions that really make the biggest difference.
A smile, a kind word, a genuine connection,
Those moments can brighten someone's day.
and create a ripple effect of positivity.
And speaking of positivity,
Yeah.
one thing that really stood out to me
What's that?
was how much people emphasized celebrating those small wins
It's so important for staying motivated
and building momentum
instead of waiting for some huge
and
accomplishment.
finally feel good about ourselves.
We can find joy in those little victories along the way,
So it's like giving yourself permission to celebrate those milestones,
no matter how small they might seem.
acknowledging a productive day at work,
Yeah.
sticking to your budget for a week, finally mastering that new skill you've been working on.
It's about finding those moments of joy and accomplishment.
Every day.
And over time, those small wins add up.
Creating a sense of progress.
And possibility.
And that fuels our motivation,
To keep moving forward.
even when we face challenges.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay, I'm ready.
Take ownership of your own narrative.
Powerful stuff.
You have the power to define success on your own terms.
To create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling,
Regardless of where you are on that traditional timeline,
it's about embracing your unique journey
celebrating your progress.
and never giving up on your dreams.
And sometimes
Yeah.
that starts with a simple question.
Okay, what is it?
What's one small step I can take today to move closer to that vision?
What's one thing I could do to nurture my well-being, to connect with others?
To create a life that truly aligns with my values?
Powerful questions.
And I think the answers will lead us all to a more meaningful and fulfilling existence.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those questions.
Thanks for joining us.
On this exploration of life, success, and the power of defining your own path,